David Meltzer told him, and I'm gonna tell you guys because I thought it was great. Never discount your rate. It's like if you're gonna do it, charge them. And if you want to create an opportunity for that and they're not gonna pay that, do it for free and do it so well that they'll never forget you.
Welcome back to the Living Banter Podcast. Thank you so much for joining. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. We're on Spotify on all your favorite podcast platforms, so check us out. Today we have a really amazing guest, so guys, stay tuned. Watch till the end. You're about to be astonished. He's creating content for brands and CEOs, global creative director for Content CEO, host of Behind the Lens podcast, global ambassador of the Justice Desk, the content CEO himself. It's RODGER'S. How are you doing, my guy?
Thanks, man. I appreciate the intro, and I'm excited to be a guest on your podcast.
Well, welcome.
Awesome. Stoked to have you.
So let me start. So you create content for a living, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So what is one of the worst people/companies you've worked for? Because I'm pretty sure there's always that one that like stands out for someone.
Oh, throwing me into the fire. Damn, I thought we would lead into something.
Nah, we're starting straight off the bat.
So I've been so lucky and fortunate enough to, with what I do and how I do, I'm able to work with characters that I believe that I suit best with. So I'm able to avoid or kind of maneuver around situations where I believe it wouldn't be a good fit, just based off personality. And so my biggest thing is really before doing any type of work, I love to jump on just a typical call if we're not being connected by a mutual friend. That gives me a better understanding of who they are and what they're looking for. So that's how I'm able to kind of divert. So I've been lucky enough where I haven't had a quote unquote bad or worse situation or client. But what comes to mind, what is the most challenging that I faced and most recent was I was appointed to run a political campaign in Southern Texas.
Wow.
And that was just different from the realm of what I typically do, just because, I'm it's not an online course, if it's not an athlete, if it's not a CEO of a company where I'm traveling with them or a brand, they're pretty established with who they are and what they're doing. And when it comes to campaigning, I learned that one of the biggest challenges was kind of being on your A game throughout the day from top to bottom. Because every person you meet, every new meeting you go into, they don't know who you are. Not saying that was referring to me because I was running, but more so having that level of energy consistently throughout the day, tied to my friend who was running for Congress.
Wow. Okay. Jeepers.
That's phenomenal.
And I can imagine.
I love the perspective of how you look at it, and that it's not just a obstacle, but you try to look at it with the best perspective and have a great lens, so to say, so that you can approach it and, just attack it in the best way possible. Totally love that.
Yeah.
I would say, that perspective you're going to have with anything that you do, especially in the creative world, because it's easy to get flustered. It's easy to feel overwhelmed. And you need to have a baseline and understanding that you're going to go through challenges. It's just a part of entrepreneurship. It's just a part of the game.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think it was an Elon Musk quote that he said, someone said, what is the best advice you would give to an entrepreneur starting out who's facing challenges? He's like, they're already facing challenges. They shouldn't get into entrepreneurship, having the thought of facing a challenge, because that's what entrepreneurship is. It's that roller coaster ride. And so I think perception and being able to have that positive mindset of looking for solutions and don't look at the problem.
Fair enough.
I love that, honestly. Elon Musk is just as crazy, like how he started and where he came from. It's awesome that he's from South Africa, but just beyond that, his mind and his ambition is just phenomenal. But Roger, we're from Cape Town, South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you located at the moment?
I'm in Southern California.
Awesome. So you are in New York, correct? What made you move to Southern California?
For the past 8 years, I spent my life in New York, but it was about 6 months ago where I made the move from New York to California. And that was to move closer to my mentor and also boss, Dan Fleyshman, who has a social media agency company out here. and I help with like market strategy, content creation. For him, it's just content.
Yeah.
They have a team that does market strategy and stuff like that, and I'm lucky enough to be by his side. BC also, aside from running a social media agency that manages $60 million a year of influencer marketing money, he has a sports card shop in the heart of Hollywood with DJ Steve Aoki, Gary Vaynerchuk, DJ Skee, and he has an additional 4 private masterminds that focus on different niches.
I love Dan. He's incredible, honestly. What a guy. So what made you link to Dan? What made you want him to be your mentor, so to say?
It kind of happened serendipitous. So I was in Miami for another podcast I was shooting with one of my best friends to interview Elena Cardone. And a friend of mine known as Casey Adams was traveling over to Tampa, Florida, which is about 4 hours northwest from Miami, Florida. And he had asked me if I could show up to Tampa to film him. He was doing a talk and to network with fellow other people. At the moment, truthfully, I wasn't like really pressured to go because I had just opened a barbershop with one of my best friends in New York. And it was like opening week. It was less than 4 weeks out of us being open. And I wanted to get back and just shoot content and be there. And he had told me, my friend Frank, he was like, hey man, you should check out this conference. It looks like there's going to be a good list of speakers, and everyone that's going to be in attendance is someone that you would want to network with or just get a chance to meet. And I said, you know what, let's do it. And so we drove across from the East Coast of Florida to the West Coast, made it there. And while I was there, I had known of Dan from an event that Casey Adams threw, but I never had the chance to speak, meet, or have a deep conversation with. And his camera guy wasn't there that day. So he asked me if I could film him. And I said, of course. And so I thought to myself, someone like him, how do you make an impression on someone like that? With my line of work, there's so many people that do what I do. And I'm sure he has a Rolodex of different characters that he can call upon. So I was like, how can he remember me? So then I filmed him, and he had paid me. And this is like the biggest lesson I want people listening or watching is that he paid me to do something that was easy. It was just film. He literally said, I'm paying you only film, and then you're going to send it to my editor and he'll put it together. And I thought to myself, why not go upstairs immediately after the talk and make my own edit and send it to him? And then if he chooses to post it, cool. But if not, just showing the hustle and kind of like the mentality of like, hey, I want to work with you and I want to show you what I'm capable of. And I did that within an hour. I sent it to him. He loved it. On top of that, not saying I was looking for anything monetary, but he sent me money for filming. And then when he saw what I did, he sent me additional money. And 48 hours after that, I kid you not, I'm in the airport. He puts me in a group chat with someone. And it literally said, Charlie, meet Roger. He's your guy. He's based in New York. He'll be able to shoot your course.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea who he was putting me in touch with. And little did I know, is one of the top music executives in the world. He's been behind finding like Shawn Mendes, helping out Destiny's Child, New Kids on the Block, The Weeknd, so many endless artists that he has worked with. And he just did that. Dan did that time and time again throughout the year of 2019. And it wasn't until the end of 2019, he did a big private mastermind where it was 100 people who each paid $100,000 to be a part of this weekend. Wow. And he had asked me to fly across the country to come and help document it with like 3 other people. Nice. And by the end of it, when I was telling him thank you and the whole experience about it, he had told me, quote unquote, he's like, you don't know this, but you're moving to California. And I kind of laughed and I'm like, for sure. Like, I appreciate it. But at the moment, I was so in love with New York and what was going on. And then we fast forward 4 months, the pandemic hit. And I'm originally born and raised in Miami, Florida. And I was down there and I just spent time reflecting. And I hit him up and I was like, hey, is that deal still on the table for me to move to California? And he's like, yeah. Nice. And then by June 1st at the end of mid-June, I went up to New York, packed 2 bags, and then I came out to California.
Cool.
That's so cool.
That's a story. That's a story and a half right there.
So great. Yeah.
And that was like very fast forwarded too. If I like the people connected me with and I was able to work with and travel has been insane.
Crazy. Yeah. And
his entrepreneurship and angel investments, it's honestly crazy. I'm glad that you could link with him. That's awesome.
A blessing for sure.
Yeah. So I want to ask, what was your biggest investment into content creation? What was the Do you have your own equipment, or do you use someone else's most of the time? How does that work?
Yeah. So when I first started out, I was actually, I had a Gatorade marketing internship in my junior summer
Sweet.
college at my university. That was back in 2015.
Hmm.
And when I came back from it, that's where I was given a camera to put into my hands and take pictures. And when I finished, I was like, man, I really enjoyed that, but it wasn't mine. And there was a family friend of mine, and there's another lesson within this for those listening and watching, which is I was interested in something, but I wasn't sure if this is something I wanted to do full time. And I wasn't sure if this was going to be quote unquote my career. I wasn't sure. And it was like me kind of what I say, dipping into my curiosity of them furthering my acceptance of, okay, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Being there's a family friend who had a professional drone company, and he had a camera guy that was on staff that I admired from Instagram, and I told him, hey, I would love to shadow him and just learn a few things. That of course. So I came along for the day. We went to it was in Miami, Florida, went to different parts of Miami. And by the end of it, he was dropping me off, and he's like, hey, that bag in the back is yours. I opened it up. It's a camera.
Oh, geez.
And he said, it's a camera that we're no longer using. He's like, I don't want money. I don't want anything from you. The only thing I want you to go out there and is create something for you, for your school, and do something and send it to me. I said, great. I went back to my school as a part of fraternity, and every semester we would recruit, and the way we would create a slideshow of pictures. And I was like, hey, we've never done a video before. I was like, I want to shoot the first video. So I directed, shot, and edited our first, fraternity video that would be used on campus, and it was a success. Everyone loved it, that got the attention of the local clubs and the largest fundraiser that would happen on our campus. It was a 24-hour dance marathon that raised money for local hospital for children who have cancer. And I made like the staple video, the example video that would be used on the screen. And then that got attention of a restaurant across the street from my university. And they approached me and they're like, hey, we need help with social media. We can't pay you, but you can be here for free. And for me, that was cool. I'm 21 years old living on campus. I was like, I'm game. How often can I come?
For sure.
And that was kind of like the push, to answer your question. My equipment was not only given to me from a family friend, but I was put into a position where I was forced to create something. I was already kind of, again, intrigued about it, but it furthered that. So like everything else, I had that first camera set. And I just kept building off of there. When I started making money, just getting different equipment.
Fair enough.
That's bewildering, honestly.
Yeah, that's so serendipitous.
Definitely. Yeah, I love the fact that you're interning, or you wanted to shadow, and you're not really in it for the money, but you had the passion for it. Why do you think it's so important to sometimes just get under someone's wing and not necessarily want to chase the money, but you just want to learn from them or intern or shadow them? Why do you think it's so important to do so?
Well, I think the baseline is that no one ever really knows what they want to do, right? Depending your background and your upbringing, unless you're put into a position where your family has a business or it's kind of the standard to go into a certain field, most people don't know what they want to do. And even then, let's say if you know what your parents do and they're telling you to do something, 9 out of 10 times, you're just doing it because you're being told to do it. But where is it that you find that passion or that love? And for me, again, referring to with the camera, is that I was intrigued by it, but I wasn't sold by it. Like now when I picked up my camera, I was like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do. There wasn't a light bulb that went off and said, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Not at all. Even after I was getting paid, and even after I graduated and I had a job, those few months when I first started, I questioned it every day. Like, am I really doing this? Why am I doing this? And the biggest thing that I want people to take away is that when you're first starting out, interning, doing anything, you're never going to know until you try, and you really try it and give it your all. When I started at my university, I went into business. I didn't know if I wanted to do finance. I didn't know if I wanted to do accounting. I didn't know if I wanted to do management and marketing. Every summer I did something new so I could check it off. My first freshman year of summer, I did a business accounting internship, and I also worked at a clothing retail store. I disliked the accounting internship. Check that off the box. I do not want to do accounting, but I like
Same.
job, and
I
I
study
love
BCom. Don't like counting.
sales and like marketing. And so then the next summer, what I did, I had a good friend of mine. Her father owned a car dealership, and I worked there as a car lot manager. I was just driving around cars, but I would hang around like the finance center and the sales center. And I was like, oh, I don't think finance is my thing either. The numbers kind of would bother me. I didn't feel confident enough. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to do that. And then it wasn't until the third summer where I had the Gatorade marketing internship. I was like, man, I could actually see myself doing this. This is something where, I would give it another try if something came about. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I can kind of
That's
relate to
phenomenal.
that
Yeah.
because I did a auditing internship like during my high school high school
Time in high school.
yeah, like my time in high school. And what was interesting about it was I actually didn't go and study accounting to do auditing. I actually went to do IT because I saw, I was getting good at it. Because I also wasn't sure if I could do it, for the rest of my life. And yeah, so my next question is kind of, what was your biggest obstacle with trying to find essentially your niche? Because you said, marketing kind of pulled you in a little bit more. But when did you know that okay, which specific point was it where you're like, okay, this is happening. I'm going to do this full throttle. Was it kind of after you got the camera from the guy you were interning of, or was it when you actually got the contact for proper work?
Yeah, for me, it was opportunity. So when I referred to that restaurant, there was the owner of the restaurant, but then the vital piece of that was an old classmate of mine that I took in an elective dance class.
Mm-hmm.
He was someone older than I was, and we had dance class together. We became friends through social media. He witnessed me go through that Gatorade marketing internship. He'd already graduated, and he was opening up a fitness facility less than 2.5 miles away. And he was also the nutritionist for the restaurant because they had a meal prep company. So that's where his role came in and how I got introduced to the restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And he was opening up the gym. And during the last semester of my university, I would go to his gym and then document the classes, take pictures, get testimonials, things that you see now on social media, which are the standard. See, that was something that we were just doing. No one, it was happening, but it wasn't happening on Instagram. Instagram at that point in 2015 wasn't used as a platform to promote business. It was still social kind of party, show your family, show your dog, It wasn't really it wasn't as forced on business as it is today. And I was doing all those things for him. And it came around. I had other opportunities too, because my biggest personal goal was I didn't want to graduate in May of 2016 without a job. I had told myself I was stepping away from my family in Miami, going to New York. The reason I did so many different things, and I referred to those summer jobs. When I was in school, though, I had multiple jobs. I was a waiter at a restaurant Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday, Thursday, I was a babysitter, and I was still a full-time student. Also, being heavily involved in curricular activities. I was in a fraternity. I was the president of the management club. I wrote for the paper. I helped do admissions. So I was so involved with so many different things. And that the whole reason I'm sharing all that is that I set myself up for opportunities. So how you sometimes hear people are like, "Oh, I got lucky," or "I was in a position at the right time." I don't believe that. I believe it's ultimately when you work really hard and you're putting yourself in a position. No one that came across something or had a big moment, it just fell on their lap. No, they had put themselves there, and then that moment came across. And so for me, by the time I graduated, my best friend now, he was like, "Hey, I would love for you to come on board and be full-time marketing for the gym." And I wasn't even about making a full-time thing with my camera. And he said, "Hey, just give me 12 months, 21, 22 years. Worst comes to worst. If it fails and this gym just doesn't do well, you go back to Miami and, you figure something out." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to take a bet on myself, and I'm going to bet on him, on what he's telling me." And it was the best decision that I made in my life. After I spent 2.5 years at that gym, and then around year 3 is where my career completely exploded with a different network. I went from New York to traveling around the world really for content.
Jeepers,
I love that so much. Yeah, because you said a lot of people would be like, "Oh, I just got this opportunity," or some people see that as a luck that just came along your path. But I love the case that you put it as it's because you worked for it. you didn't just meet Shaquille O'Neal, but it's like you worked to get there, and the opportunities that you've been given, it didn't just like someone didn't just throw it at you, but you worked to get there, and that's so important. I love that.
Yeah.
Show up.
Yeah. Show up. Be ready for
Mm,
anything. You know.
Time and time
for
again.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you worked with a lot of great companies and people, enterprises. Who has been someone that you worked with that blew your mind, or you just took a step back and be like, wow, I did not expect this to happen?
Yeah, DJ Steve Aoki.
Oh
I
yeah.
love the guy.
Yes.
Yeah,
Love him. Yeah.
I knew of him, of course, from his music,
Mm.
but the thing that, as you said, I have that aha moment of wow, that he's brilliant, and his mannerisms and how he carries himself is what I love. So what I do, you know how again you started off the podcast asking me what was the worst person or the worst gig. I make that decision before I work with them.
Okay.
If I kind of feel their intentions and the way they carry themselves and the way they talk is not someone I can be around, I won't do it. And I mean that because you can never work with someone that's difficult. You can never work with someone that has their head locked in on one thing and one thing only. And I only say that for me because I've experienced and seen it through other people. Where if I have that choice, I won't do it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's moments when I go through projects, you hit roadblocks and you have kind of this impact of moments. Yes, but the baseline of who they are as people, I try to keep that consistent. And Steve Aoki, best friends with Dan. And when I went over to his house to film him, I wasn't aware of one. I don't know if you guys know this, but he doesn't drink or smoke.
He doesn't?
He had an awakening early in his career where one of his best friends died.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
from that day, he let go of drugs and alcohol. And this, I'm talking about like, this is like probably 15 plus 20 plus. This was like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Drink or smoke. And to be that type of DJ in a stimulus of clubs, nightlife, that was like a big eye-opening thing for me. I'm like, all right, that's different. Number two was he's massive on health and wellness. Loves ice bath. He has it at his house. Saunas. Loves to do that all the time. Meditation, yoga. Like he's all about the mind, body, and the spirit. And that I love. And then on top of that, the epitome of a workaholic. I believe in 2019, it was either 2018 or 2019, at 365 days, he was traveling in the air performing over 275 days. It was probably more. And you have to put in context is that he's in a position in his life where he doesn't have to do that anymore.
Yes, 100%.
Doesn't need to perform. There was, I believe, one day he went to like 3 different countries in one day to perform. Back then, you go, car, plane, play, repeat. Like someone that doesn't need to continuously need to be performing and creating, and he is. I love that, and that's kind of like how I see my future to be. Is like no matter where I am and what I'm doing as a content creator, I always want to be creating something and have that stimulus. And he does that, and that's what I love.
Yeah.
That's startling, honestly.
Yeah, because
So what caused that drive in you? Where did that passion stir up that you want to work the hardest that you possibly can? Is it the goal that drives you? What really drives you?
I think it's just the base of Gary Vaynerchuk and a bunch of people I listen to say it best. It's like the last time I checked, you only do this once. You know what I mean? There's no reset in life.
Only live once.
There's no I can't wake up tomorrow and be 5 years old again. I can't wake up and think to myself that things are happening against me and the world is, I just, that mindset of telling myself you only do this once is what gets me up, plain and simple. I tell myself that all the time. The position I'm in, if I'm in a bad position, if I'm having a bad day, I always tell myself, all right, like, let me sit down, let me reflect, let me think about what's going on. How can I improve it? What's the best thing I can do right now? You just move forward. That's what I tell myself every single day. And then I'm really big into what I call mind dumping. I open up my journal and I just write stuff that's in my head, everything from business to what I need to do. I don't actually journal. I used to think that I had to do that. And for me, I would randomly do it. I would put down my thoughts, but more so it's really just pinpoints of just like things that are in my head. And it's helped me kind of have that mental state of being focused and kind of pushing on where I'm going, what I'm doing.
Interesting.
That is so underestimated in society.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
whereas we just look at life like, oh, I was there, cool, and then we move on. But I
Mm.
think like Tanner Fox and Casey, they did a podcast together, on Tanner Fox's podcast, and he was saying like you can just look through your camera gallery and you can see where you've been and be like, oh, I learned from that, or this is what happened, that's how I got through it. I think it's so important to look back in the past and learn from it.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
Awesome.
thing I kind of focus on doing too, especially with my vlogs. So I put together the month of January was absolutely insane for me.
Mm.
And I kind of have that mindset though, and it happens of how you said I go through the motions, just because I'm always like, all right, this is what I have at hand. I've accomplished it. What's this week? What's next week? What's tomorrow? But it was yesterday. I had finished my travel, and I got back to my place, and I was like, man, I had a pretty crazy month, and I did just that. I went through my camera roll and condensed a minute video. January 1st through the 3rd, I was in Tulum, Mexico. I came back to San Diego Del Mar for 4 days, and I was like watching the sunsets and hiking. And then the next 4 days, I was in Aspen, Colorado, hiking in the mountains. And then I came back again, and then I had one of my best friends in town. And then I flew to Miami, and then we did a fitness workout, raised hundreds of dollars. And then that Sunday, I was on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
Jeepers.
And then I came back to San Diego, and then for the weekend, I was in Phoenix, Arizona, another beautiful destination, filming Shaq and all these other characters. And I'm like, man, this happened in a 30-day period.
It's
You know, and I
ridiculous.
went through the
Like a
motions.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I went through the motions, and I'm telling myself, I'm like, dude, I just did that in a month.
Bruh.
Like,
yeah, some
Crazy.
people don't
I
even
don't
do
know.
that in like a
Sounds
year, you know?
Literally.
That is, jeez. Have you ever experienced any burnout at any point in your life? And if so, how did you get past that?
yeah, it was probably around, it was definitely 2019 when the peak of sorry, not the peak, but like the growth of my journey was really taking off at a rate that I didn't know how or why. And it was because my traveling was at an all-time high. And I think for those listening or watching, it's important to do 3 things. The first thing is that to understand that burnout is created because you don't have any systems or processes in place. What does that mean?
Sure.
That means as an individual, how do you center yourself? That means as for business, how do you maintain and understand what you have going out and what you have coming in, and how do you outline it, right? And the second thing is having that self-care. For me, my self-care is number 1, fitness, like sweating 30 to 45 minutes. Number 2, I told you, it was like journaling. And number 3, I realized was personal relationships, calling my mom, calling my dad, calling my grandma. I text my brother and sisters every day. And having those moments, I was like, I don't want that. I need that in my life. And then the third thing is understanding that it's okay to be alone, and it's okay to do something just for you and not having an approval or waiting for someone to do something. And for me, that was randomly, I have an obsession with Everbowl. It's a franchise here in the US that Dan actually owns, and Aaron Wagner and a couple other people. And I love to walk. It's like a half a mile to get an acai bowl, and that makes me really happy. It's like I
love
need
those.
to do those things for yourself.
Yeah.
And so when I experienced that burnout, I actually have, I don't think I've ever spoken about this publicly, but I had an anxiety attack. Like I was traveling, I don't know where I was, what I was doing. I was traveling to Arizona, and I was just completely checked out. I barely had slept in a couple days. And it was for work because I was taking my work opportunities one after another. And I woke up and I was like, my heart was racing. I was sweating in sweats. I was like, I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And when I called the family friend who was a doctor, they're like, yeah, you're experiencing a panic attack. She's like, you need to like relax today. You need to, because I had told them everything that was going on in my head with business, finances, my personal life. And they're just like, you're all over the place. You need to calm the mind. My nutrition was out of whack. That's another big component. It's like, what you feed your body is how maintains this, and how you feel, and how you maneuver
Oh,
and
jeez.
able to move. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all one. It really all is one.
Mm.
And so now I'm lucky enough where I have a full-time assistant. You know, actually this morning I brought on my first ever business coach because I'm looking to expand my reach with online education and creating a course and creating my own community. And so what I'm doing is I'm gathering people in my circle to help me further my business and kind of delegate the things that I need to tell myself that I have to do. I don't have to do everything.
Mm.
You know, I'm putting, as Shaq says, I learned from him this weekend, is that he became successful through so many different businesses is because he was uniting the people that were great. He was putting people in places in a position to win that were great at what they did. He's like, I own restaurants, but I'm not the chef.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, like I found the best chef
Important.
and I put them in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And so everything in life is that you don't have to do it all. You just find the right person, put them in a position to win and make sure they're great at that. And then of course you're going to have the ups and downs. I had my full-time assistant when we first met. We had the ups and downs, but he's pretty locked in on how I work and what's expected and you know how we communicate. Like there's no misunderstanding.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's astonishing, honestly. Truly. And Casey, or Roger, sorry, Roger, you're busy, guys. I don't want to keep you for longer. But just any advice that you'd give to other people out there who want to pursue business or become a creative director, what advice would you give out to them?
I would say the first thing is that when you're starting out as a content creator and you don't have work opportunities, reach out to family and friends and create content. You could find any type of inspiration online on things that you can do to create your portfolio. Once you create your portfolio, reach out to local businesses and have a game plan of what you're going to approach them with and how you're going to do it, and have that have your rate set. It was actually this weekend as well. I was in the car with Jeff Fenster. He's the CEO and founder of Everbowl. And he was speaking to me when early in his career, he was a sports agent for Steinbrenner Sports. And one of his mentors was David Meltzer. And David Meltzer told him, and I'm going to tell you guys because I thought it was great. He's like, never discount your rate. He's like, if you're going to do it, charge them. If you want to create an opportunity for that and they're not going to pay that, do it for free and do it so well that they'll never forget you.
Love that.
And so that comes back to the confidence thing. When you're starting out as a content creator, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed. It's very easy to compare yourself to any photographer, any video guy on Instagram or any social media platform. But no one is you. Like that's what I tell myself all the time. Like the position I'm in, there's not 20 other people in this position. So I need to make sure that I'm really, really good at that and do it to the best of my capabilities. And how do I do that? I have to educate myself on what I'm doing. I have to do it consistently. So that builds confidence in me. And then I have to deliver. And so with all those things of doing it consistently, showing up and educating myself, it's a formula to win. Like you'll have times where things are perfect, but know that you're doing everything to your capabilities to put yourself in a position to win and get it done. And when you do those things, I promise you that you'll find results and then you'll meet great people along the way. Because my camera is what I say is my vehicle of collaboration. I'm in rooms and I get to meet people that I would never meet if it wasn't for my camera, that I have no reason to be in that room for, except for the fact that I have that camera and I'm able to capture the moment. And now more than ever as well, we're in a social media economy, social media attention world where photos and video are needed now more than ever. So if you have that camera and you're unsure about it, you have a phone, an iPhone. I started out, I made videos on my iPhone. You have a phone, do it. Save money for that camera, set goals, and just execute. Just execute. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Not a problem. Thank
Roger,
you for coming
the
on.
content CEO. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Guys, link in description to Roger's website, his YouTube channel, his podcast. It's really astonishing. Check it out. Go send him some love. This podcast has been breathtaking. So Roger, thank you so much. It's really been an honor having you on. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So guys, like and subscribe to this channel. Make sure to leave a comment. Send love to Roger. See you next time. Peace.
Peace out.